Good evening buddies, and welcome to the lben teahouse, your buddy lben on the mic here. So get this, back in the days before the interwebs took over, getting your hands on content usually meant shelling out some cash. If your wallet was fat enough, picking up whatever juicy bits of info or stories you fancied was no biggie. But let's face it, not many folks were rolling in dough or keen on buying knowledge back then, so cheap resources started popping up all over. As a kid, I could snag a library card for $2 and dive into a sea of books, and later on, there were even stores renting out books. Fast forward a bit and bam, we hit the motherlode of free online resources for over 2 decades. Legit, pirated, it was a free-for-all smorgasbord of everything you could imagine. But what about folks a bit older? How did they get their read on? Old school, baby, hitting up the used bookstalls. And that's where today's tale kicks off, involving a bookstall and, well, a friend of mine. If you've ever taken a nosy through my WeChat moments, you might have seen this guy. Tall, specs on his face, not quite runway material but not half bad looking either. Let's just say he's got an interesting mug if you catch my drift. Now, our story's hero is this complicated looking chap's old man. Born in the 60s, came from a solid working class family. Back in the day, if Dad worked the factory floors, you could, too, if you fancied it. Times change though, and by the time Junior was of age to follow in Dad's footsteps, the whole worker's pride thing wasn't all that and a bag of chips. So, young and spry, and sparing the old folks' feelings, he chose to plunge into business instead of the factory life. Dipping into commerce meant peddling along the streets. Bootleg tapes, Shanghai watches, Wenzhou shoes, Inner Mongolia coats. You name it, he sold it. Sharp mind meant solid business, so he earned the nickname, Chain-ster. Why practicing stall, you ask? To the uninitiated, sounds kind of like martial arts training, huh? Now, did the practicing stall rake in the big bucks? Let's put it this way. It wasn't making him filthy rich, but it sure beat the factory wages by a long shot. Still, in those early reform days, gals looking for a man wanted stability above all. Plus, Chain-ster had the kind of face that, let's say, didn't do him any favors, so he was flying solo well into his 20s. But hey, no rush, right? Bachelorhood's biggest perk is freedom. Want to do something? Just do it, no strings attached. Chain-ster might not have had the looks, but the dude loved to read. Business slow? He's nose deep in a book. Heading home after a day's work, sometimes his folks would nag him, and he'd just shut the door and keep reading. The 80s were like a cultural renaissance around here, and Chain-ster wasn't picky. Hong Kong kung fu novels, young mainland authors like Hai Yan, Wang Shuo, Ya Ping. Old books on the cheap, all fair game. So this one time, with the hit Hong Kong flick, A Better Tomorrow, premiering, he figures he can cash in on the post-movie crowd. Picture this. Theaters so big they seated 2,000. He sets up shop at the theater exit, prime real estate. Usual crowds, the cozy couples on movie dates, and boy did business boom that night. Fast forward to about 9, way later than his usual wrap-up time of around 7. It's one of those nights, after all. Everything's packed up, streets are dead, and he's ready to bolt when here comes this old dude across the street, lugging a bundle. Takes a couple of steps, finds a spot, and plonks down. From a distance, it looks like he's laying stuff out, and yep, Chain-ster's curiosity is piqued. So, he moseys over, takes a gander, and hey, the old-timer selling something. Heads over, and what does he find? The old man's just as rough around the edges as his merchandise. Unfurling a ragged cloth with a handful of books scattered on it. Heads down, hands in pockets, the Chain-ster wasn't much for chatting. Frequenting the old bookstalls meant he had quite the library at his fingertips. Most sellers he knew by face, if not by name. But this one old-timer he never laid eyes on before. Peering closer at the books, they're in pitiful shape. Some without covers, others barely holding together, wrapped in newspaper. Selling books is a daytime gig when the light's good and the words are clear. Now here it is, pushing 9 at night, streetlights flickering off soon. Only someone young would be curious enough to squat down and check out the books under these conditions. One catches his eye, it has a cover. But heck, the title's all but gone. He asks, how much? The old guy, without lifting his head, says, 100,000. Now, folks, we're not just talking about the 80s. When's the last time you, me, or anyone's dropped that kind of cash on a book? 100K? For a book? The guy must think Chain-ster fell off the turnip truck yesterday. But Chain-ster thinks, why not? Pretends it's all good, and hands over a buck, playing the fool. Imagine this. Back then, comic books were 35 cents, a good novel a couple of bucks. But he balks at the price, not in the mood to haggle tonight, so he pays up and makes to leave. The old man takes the money, muttering about wrapping up for the night. Chain-ster thinks, all this set up for my lousy buck? A few steps away and he's thinking, maybe he's been had. He glances back, wanting to etch the old man's face in his memory, to give him the eye if he sees him again. Turns around and, bam! The guy's packed up and gone, as if swallowed up by the night. Losing a buck? No biggie. Chain-ster shrugs it off and heads home. It's past 10, his mom's asleep, and his brothers, one studying, the others working, are still up and about. They're tight-knit, thanks to Big Bro always bringing home treats like sweet potatoes or fish snacks. He walks in, and the brothers eagerly greet him. Settling down. Chain-ster shares how business was booming that night. Then he remembers the old book guy and pulls the book from his inside pocket. Check this out, boys, a book this cost me 100 grand. He recounts his story, making light of his impulsive buy. They all lean in to inspect this century-old looking tome. Yellowed, worn, without a cover. What does it say inside? 4 words come to mind. Nonsense. Bizarre stuff like how to attract wealth, find love, or ward off evil spirits. Chain-ster, a jack of all trades, has seen it all. Sketchy mags from Southeast Asia included, but nothing quite like this. After a laugh, they pick a random spell to try, for kicks. A love spell? Why not? Who are we kidding? Chain-ster's a bachelor pushing 30. They follow the instructions, more for a goof than anything, and call it a night. Next morning, it's all forgotten. Same routine, hitting the stalls, coming home late. Ecstatic about his sales. And for the next few days, it's repeat business. A post-movie rush, maybe? So, it turns out, movie nights weren't an everyday thing. Back home. Chain-ster learned why his stall closing had coincided with some heroics earlier that day. Heading home, he stumbled upon a couple of thugs hassling a pretty lady. Broad daylight, for all the heavens and earth to witness such bold villainy. And yes, she was quite the looker, but let's not kid ourselves, even if she wasn't. Chain-ster would have jumped in. Was he supposed to have waded through years of martial arts novels for nothing? He jumped into action, using what he had to break it up, and escorted the damsel to safety. Chatting her up, he discovered she was a college student. Which back then, was a big deal, almost guaranteed a sweet job. Fast forward, and the two fell madly in love. She graduated and landed a cushy bank job, shot up from section chief to department head, then bank president. Chain-ster? His business grew, and now he's the biggest real estate tycoon around. Word has it, on a trip to Jiangxi, a Taoist priest up on Dragon Tiger Mountain pegged his wife for a lucky charm. Radiating fortune and bliss, whatever that means. But let's get to the heart of the story here. The very day Chain-ster meets his future missus is the day his mysterious book goes Mia. Parents in one room, brothers in another, with his solo pad usually off limits. The book was last seen flung onto a usual clothes pile chair after a nightly chat. Next morning, clothes on, book still there, but search high and low, tear down the house, zilch. It's gone. He looked for the old man with the books, night after night until midnight, nothing. Neighbors hadn't seen hide nor hair of him either. What really grinded Chain-ster's gears was that the spells from the book, once so simple, are wiped from memory. Not just his. His brothers were right there, yet all three, not a chump among them, couldn't recall a single detail, just the fact that it happened. Chain-ster's father, a bookworm for life, stumbled upon a ruckus in a book fair one year. Someone had bought a book, found it was missing pages just a short walk away, and came back raising hell for a refund. The seller, all bluster and bravado, retorted, "You pay peanuts, you get monkeys." That's when it hit Chain-ster. The old man's outrageous asking price meant the book's magic was a one-hit wonder, meant to be forgotten after use. And there you have it, today's story, shared with my friend's blessing, parents' blessing. Meh, not so sure. This story that unfolded all around me is less a ghost story and much more a tale of love. Here's to Uncle and Auntie's health and lifelong companionship. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Your support is what keeps me going. Thank you for visiting lben's Tea House.